Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Better Beach podcast. I'm Kinna, and in today's episodes, we had the pleasure of talking with Megan Rice, a former NCAA D1 player from Loyola Marymount and the current AVP Rookie of the Year. Megan dives into her journey of switching from indoor to beach volleyball, shares insight from her college career, and talks about overcoming injury to come out on top. But before we get started, I would like to remind you about our upcoming beach volleyball camps. We'll be in Scottsdale, Arizona from November 22nd to 24th and in Long Island, New York that same weekend. Plus, you don't want to miss our all-inclusive beach volleyball camp in Punta Cana from November 30th to December 6th. If you're looking for direct feedback on your game from AVP pros, these camps are where you want to be. You can check out all of the dates and details at betteratbeach.com. And now, enjoy the episodes. So Megan, can you give us a little introduction about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your volleyball journey, and just so people that don't know you know a little bit more.
Sure. So I was an indoor girl growing up through and through. Beach was never part of the plan. I went to UC Santa Barbara my first year and played indoor there. Shortly after, I transferred to LMU, Loyola Marymount University, and played a year of indoor there. Unfortunately, I hurt myself at the end of my sophomore year, was out for the next season. When I came back, it was COVID. And so basically, I started my beach volleyball journey my senior year of college and ended up playing my senior year and like my super senior year. And then since then, took a year off right when I got out and then decided I wanted to come back and try playing professionally on the beach. So this is my second year doing that.
Nice. Awesome. So you mentioned that you started with UC Santa Barbara. What made you transfer? Like what happened? Like
Yeah.
you started with indoor. Did you already know you wanted to play beach, or what was the thought process at this time?
So the thought process behind the transfer was, back then you committed really young. So I committed to UCSD when I was 14, and I'll just chalk it up to you don't really know what you
That's
want when you're
crazy.
14. You don't know what you want. So I ended up there, just didn't love it for a number of reasons, and then decided in the late spring that I was going to take a chance and transfer. And the late spring, again, back then the transfer rules were very strict. And so a lot of things kind of just fell into place to put me at LMU. At that point in time, the indoor coach, Tom Black, left and went to Georgia. And when that happened, a couple of transfers left, including Sarah Sponsel, who went to UCLA. And that's what opened up the indoor scholarship spot. And it kind of all just fell into place there. The coach had known me from growing up playing, so I didn't have to try out. There wasn't a long conversation. It was just like, "Yep, we'll take you." And my first like meeting on campus went amazing, and I just knew instantly that this was going to be a better fit for me.
Yeah. Wow, that's insane that you committed at 14. I had no idea. That's so young. The rules kind of changed now, or that is you have to commit a little later, right? Or
Yeah, you can't talk to coaches nearly as young. You have to like give your verbal commitments later, um, and even like your official commitments come even later. So now it really protects the players and I think the schools too, because um, the
you
schools
never
don't even
know.
know how good
Yeah.
you are when you're
Yeah, yeah,
14, right?
yeah.
Whereas with they wait a little bit longer, they really
Hmm.
get to see you mature as a player and see if you're a good fit for their program and if you're, yeah, vice versa, if you think they're a good fit for you.
Yeah. No, I think it's a lot better. Like I cannot imagine just making a life decision at 14 years old.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you were able to transfer, and then unfortunately you got hurt. Can
Yeah.
you take us through that journey of what happened? What was your recovery like? And how did you keep the motivation throughout everything?
Yeah. So, I got to play pretty much the full season at LMU. I loved every minute of it. And then in our very last conference game, I remember I was at BYU when it happened, and I think it was a little bit of an overuse injury since it was at the end of season. And I hit a ball in a game, came down like just like any other ball, and I blew out my knee, everything in it. So ACL, MCL, meniscus, even cracked my femur. I don't even know. I don't even know how I did it, but it happened.
Wow.
And so I knew I was going to be out for, they tell you 8 months is the minimum because of the quantity at which I had torn things and the severity of each tear. We knew it was going to be longer than that. So I redshirted that following indoor season. Um, for me, I think the reason I was able to successfully come back from such a major injury was I had a lot of patience. I didn't really give myself a timeline. The coaches at LMU were really awesome and letting me have that freedom of not pressuring me to come back, but really taking the time I needed to. And I also think that my PT at the time, his name's Chris Graham, shout out Chris, really was a great advocate for me and really helped me work through not just the physical process, but the mental process of coming back.
Wow. Because, yeah, to people that don't know, Megan's strength is she jumps to the roof. So a knee injury can really affect you. And once you came back, were you scared to jump again? Was any part of your mental state like kind of blocking you to just play free again?
I think for me, and again, I think that because I was so patient with the process, I set myself up for being successful because I was very OCD about my recovery. So I injured my left knee, anything my right leg could do in terms of strength, flexibility, um, mobility, all of it, like I made sure that my left leg could do it just as easily, just as it did before. So even as extreme as I can do, I don't know if you guys know what a pistol squat is, but it's a pretty extreme like exercise of
Yeah.
strength and mobility, and I could do it on my right leg. So that was kind of like for me in my mind, like the benchmark is I have to be able to do this. And so when are putting yourself through, such a high bar of testing and not just being like, oh, well, I can play and do this, so I can do this. I was like, no, like it has to be everything. And so when I was finally cleared, I felt like I didn't just feel like I was ready. I knew,
Yeah.
and that I think helped get me through it. Not to say that I didn't have some like flare ups here and there for
Hmm.
a little bit past, but I knew I was strong enough and I knew my knee had regained its stability.
Yeah. No, totally. And since then, did you have anything back to your knee, or do you think that your recovery was so great and like you gain your strength again, so you didn't have any more injuries towards that area?
I never had another injury. I did have a flare up. Let's see, when was it? So I redshirted the following indoor season, and then uh, so my sophomore year, pretty early on in indoor, John Mayer of LMU Beach Volleyball approached me and was like, "Hey, I don't know if you have any interest, but we'd love for you to come over and play beach, not just indoor." Because at the time, like half the team was playing both, so it was really common. And I told him like, "I've never really played, but sure, I'll give it a try." Obviously, I didn't make it to that spring, but the following spring, I wanted to hold true on that promise and tried to go play beach and was just having some issues. I think the other thing that gave me the flare up is we were feeling pretty good about where I was at. So my indoor coach sent me to a USA indoor like volleyball tryout
Mm,
for like some of the youth teams, which is basically like 3 days of double days.
yeah.
So I think that was really the
Intense.
flare up. And then it scared me enough to be like, you know what, I'm going to take this spring too and really make sure I'm bulletproof. And that way I can get into the next indoor season feeling really, really confident about where I'm at.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, so talking back on how John and Cameron approach you, what made you decide like that you wanted to keep playing beach? Because I know that when I came, I think you were the only indoor player that stayed that were doing both. So there was a bit of a turnover there. So
Yeah.
what made you stay? What made you like beach volleyball? And do you think it helped you in your indoor as well?
I think for me, what made me end up staying was not necessarily beach itself, because I was not very good when I came over to start working with the team. But I think what it was is I loved the culture and the girls that were on the beach team, and I just wanted to be around it more. And I think too, I always have more fun when I'm playing for something that's more than just myself, and that team needed blockers. And I remember after when COVID hit, like we had just gotten into our next spring season, and indoor season was going to kind of be a wash because the fall we were just shut down completely. And I remember Aaron Mansfield, the indoor coach at the time, we were having a conversation about it. Like, do I train with the indoor team or do I train with the beach team? And he was like, like the indoor season's going to be a wash anyway. And if like beach wants any chance of doing what they can, you need to get better. So that was kind of the decision point, and I went and trained with the team in the fall of COVID, and then um, by the next spring, not that I was amazing, but I was in a in a place that we needed me to be to have the success we did as a team then.
Wow. Yeah, no, 100%. I know that me personally, I felt like after going to beach, like going back to indoor, I always felt I had more control into my game. I think like beach brought a lot of like control and also like the eye sequence. You become a lot more aware of the game. And so to anyone talk listening out here, I do think that beach player. Like playing beach helps you being a better indoor player. But do you think by switching between both, because you did basically almost like 4 years of season entire year, and college season is pretty intense, that is indoor or beach, and do you think it took a really hard hit on your body at the end of it?
Yeah, so it was about 3 years, yeah, that I did the indoor beach, indoor beach, indoor beach, like back to back seasons. And I think that what is nice about it is because you're constantly cross training, I actually think it makes you less injury prone. Um, but the transitions always tough. I think coming from beach to indoor is always really easy. Like you're jumping higher, you're more explosive, obviously moving on the hard court compared to the sand. It's a big
Yeah.
difference. I think going back the other way is extremely difficult. I always would joke like it would take like two months to really feel like I had my sand legs back.
hmm
Um, but again, kind of like what you said, I do feel like beach made me a better indoor player. It gives you better court awareness, um, and just being able to see space, because on the beach it's something you need to rely on, whereas an indoor, not that you don't need it, but a lot of it's more peripheral vision, where on the
hmm
beach it's a lot more taking looks and recognizing opportunities to even just put the team out of system. So I do think it heightened my awareness about those kinds of plays.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Keep talking about the beach side. What is from now, if you had one memory from the beach team at LMU, what was your best memory? And if you could change something that you did there, what would you have done differently?
Ooh, tough one. My favorite memory. I don't know. We had so many. We we won two conference titles while I was there. I think another really fun one was like we had two very deep runs in the tournament. Um, so I would say the first conference title that I got to be a part of,
hmm
just because I hadn't gotten to experience that on the indoor side, and it was just really unique and really cool to be a part of. And it kind of was the beginning of what ended up being kind of a like Riot Dynasty. Like we started winning like conference every year after
Hmm.
that, pretty much. So
Yeah.
it was cool to be the big like feel like I was at the beginning of building what is now like a really good, well-known program.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I know that for you also academic was really important. And it's hard as a student athlete to manage both, especially because, well, you're in season all year long, and also the finals always end up at the same time as the conferences or
Yeah.
the championship and everything. So I think you did a really good job just managing both. But if there's any like young girls or young guys listening to this, what would be your advice into managing both and
Yeah.
staying on top of it?
Um, it's a learning process. I think by the end, I kind of had it as mastered as I could. My advice would be one, don't try to overextend yourself. Like, again, I was doing back-to-back seasons, so at the time, like, if you're gonna, something has to suffer, right? So it's either gonna be your academics, your sport, or your social life. Oh, you got to kind of pick two if you really want to succeed in two. So for me, it was I want to succeed in my athletics, I want to succeed in school. So I didn't have a ton of time to socialize, but your team's also your built-in friends. So I really enjoyed my practice time and travel time and really used that as my social time too. And I think that makes it easier when you enjoy the program you play for, the culture, and the girls. So that was one thing. And then I think the other thing that really helped me was I would always just get things done when I had the time and never save things because other things just pop up. So even before went to Gulf Shores, I asked all my professors to finish my finals early. So when I went, like my school year was done instead of saving the stress of like
Hmm.
giving a couple presentations during that week or taking a couple exams. So that would be my piece of advice is when you have the time, just get it done, get it out of the way. Um, so that way, if something does come up, you have time to do it and you're not overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's great advice coming from an all-American, all-academic right here. So she did it the right way, 100%. So let's move on to your after college. So you did take a break. Do you think you needed it mentally, physically, and what made you come back, decided to come back to the beach and not pursue your professional, like not more like work career at the
Yeah.
moment?
I think for me, doing six, whatever that was, 6 seasons back to back, I was burned out. I knew that, pushing through would be worth it. And I pushed myself really, really hard. But at the end of it, I think I was just ready to take a little bit of a breath. And I felt like if I went and pursued anything professionally at that time, it wouldn't be because I necessarily really was motivated to. It would be more like because I felt pressured to, whether it's from like peers, coaches, whatever. I think that's what people wanted me to do. But I'm like, okay, if I don't have like it in me right now, you know, then what's the point? Especially
Hmm.
like I mentioned in beach volleyball, you're not necessarily, I think I mentioned like I like playing for something more than myself. And it did feel a little bit like the beach is a much more individual sport than people think. Yes, when you get into a partnership, then you have something to work for. But when you first start off, like you are on your own, you're probably partner hopping a little bit, and it's not an easy process to go through. And so you really need to want to be there. And I think for me, I felt like I owed myself a mental break that I never took for whatever it was, like 3 years at least, but probably a little more than that because I was in college for 6 years. So it was just a long time since I actually gave myself the luxury of free time and pursuing other passions.
Hmm.
Um, and overall, just taking a breath.
Yeah, no, I mean, understandable, honestly. And I do think that sometimes, like, having a break can make you realize how much you care and how much you want to get back to something. So let's talk about your first season on the AVP. So you started with 0 points. Let's mention that. Um, I don't even think your first season wasn't even, was it a full season? I think, or did you just explain how your first season go, how you had the opportunity to just hop in and
Yeah.
everything that went through.
So I feel like I decided pretty late that I was like, okay, I do want to try to play. Um, I decided in the early spring to like get back into like more serious weight training and preparing myself and just trying to make connections to even get like practices right. And then um, tried to sign up for Miami AVP, not knowing how anything worked, right? Thinking like, oh, like someone with some points can help me get in. Couldn't get in because of points. Um, then let's see, what was after that? Huntington AVP didn't qualify. Denver AVP had a really tough, gnarly draw, didn't qualify. Um, but I felt like even though, I felt like I just kept missing opportunities that I was really close to having a breakthrough, and not that practices are always a great indicator of where you're at, but I was beating a lot of teams that were playing at the level that I thought I could get to or could achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided like no matter what, I'm going to stick it out for this summer and just like give myself right the chance and the opportunities to see how it turns out. Little did I know, soon after Denver, I would get like my first really big opportunity, which was it was 4th of July weekend. Everyone else had either gone to Wapaka or had qualified for Hermosa. And I got a call on Wednesday of that week from Savvy Simo that her partner Tony, they were doing really well. They just had a really successful finish in Denver. Um, and they had a bunch of really, really important international tournaments coming up. And so they were thinking about having Tony rest for Hermosa so that they could prioritize those tournaments. And so basically, she needed a blocking sub. And she's like, do you want to play? And I'm like, absolutely. Like, are you kidding me? Of course. So, and obviously, with for those who don't know, with injury subs, it's not, you don't need to qualify for the tournament. They just switch out the players and then reseed the teams by points. So we went in as a pretty low seed, but Savvy had good points, so maybe like 13 seed. I can't remember. And um, so we went in against really good the Brazilian team. Um,
Mm.
oh my gosh, why am I blanking on their names? They're like
Lily
legends.
and
Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
and
the
Larissa.
Menstrinis. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And we won, and I think we were just like, oh my gosh, like that was so fun, and just riding the emotions. We won our next game that day, and we kept winning all the way through to the finals. And like I said, I think that I went into the weekend as prepared as I could be, training hard. And then I think the other thing too is when you get really fun opportunities that are beyond maybe what you think is your reach, just reminding yourself in the moment that pressure is a privilege, and like it's so fun when you get to even like play at those high levels to really enjoy it. And so I think that was part of the reason we had such a successful weekend, is because we really were enjoying playing and enjoying the moment with each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty incredible. To just hop in and then you're not only like having a good tournament, you're going all the way to the finals. Like that is pretty awesome. Um, and then after that, the same season, you end up doing another another sub, right?
Yeah, so um, basically at that point, I guess I just put myself on anyone's like, all right, well, if my blocker's out, I'll just take Megan because soon after for Atlanta, um, Betsy, Julia again was having some health injury issues, and uh, Betsy needed a sub and we went. I think we got a ninth, which we think we were a little disappointed with, but we had zero practice together.
Hmm.
And Savvy and I only had a serve and pass. So sometimes, it's nice when it instantly gels, and then sometimes you need like a little bit more. But we still had so much fun. And that also was the first time I competed in really extreme heat. So it was a good
Hmm.
learning experience for me there.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. And then did you not play with Stockman also at one point? Or was that season
Yes.
as well?
Yeah. So I had,
Was that
so
another medical stuff? What?
So, yes, I technically had, again, like I said, I think I put myself on everyone's radar
Yeah.
for any blocking sub that was needed. Because then I finished the year in Chicago with Emily Stockman.
Hmm.
Um, I subbed for Megan Kraft, and I think we got either a ninth or a seventh. I can't even remember now. And played in like a king of the court after that,
Wow.
which was a really great experience. It was really cool, I think, to not like, Savvy's my age, and I've like grown up with her,
Hmm.
playing against her, and to get to share that experience with her and play on the same side, that was really cool. But it was really special to play under Betsy and Emily Stockman, two really veteran players of the game.
Hmm.
And I just tried to like have fun and just sponge up as much of that knowledge and wisdom as I could, because they are incredible athletes.
Yeah, no, 100%. And do you think that mentally, because with Savvy, it's like same generation, and then with Betty and Emily, they're more veteran of the tour. Do you think you put more pressure on yourself mentally by playing with them? Or because with Savvy, it was kind of your first major and you had no pressure and you had great results. Then afterwards, you were like, oh my God, I have to do
Yeah,
it again. Like, what do you think? Like, how did you feel?
that's a good question. I don't feel like I put maybe a little bit more, but not a ton more pressure. I think the other factor probably was Hermosa. I remember being a little bit more like watered down.
Mm-hmm.
And the two other like tournaments that got stepped into our gold series.
Mm-hmm.
And those are real, like, all the teams are really, really good. You're not going to
Mm-hmm.
have an easy match. And I think that when you, again, don't have that practice and familiarity with each
Yeah.
other, you're not going to get away with it as much
Yeah.
against really good teams.
Yeah. Agreed. Wow, 100%. And after this year, you did get Rookie of the Year, right? That was this year. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, how did you feel about that? Do you think it was a great achievement? And coming to this past season, do you think it kind of put a target on your back, or did you feel more pressure because you had proven yourself? So do you feel like people change how they were interacting with you and
Yeah.
like with you, just yourself on the court?
I think that obviously I was really honored. There's a lot of good players out on the beach.
Hmm.
And I think that, uh, on one hand, I think I was given a lot of opportunities. But at the same time, obviously you aren't given more if you don't earn them.
Yeah.
So um, I was honored, and I'm just really grateful that I had the opportunities that I did, and that I was able to make the most out of those opportunities. And then for, this year coming in, I think that it definitely made me feel like, okay, like it was very validating that I don't think I just like am right there. I definitely feel like I can play at this level. And so I do think I put a little more pressure on myself this year to uh, sustain a high level of play, and really get better this off season. And then um, like I said, everyone's really good. So every single year, it doesn't matter how many times you prove yourself. You have to
Hmm.
prove yourself every tournament. You have to prove yourself every match. So I think that's, for me, is one of the tough things and really fun things about this sport is you have to constantly be evolving, because this is a game about exposing people's weaknesses and finding new ones. And the higher up you are on the food chain, the more people are going to want to beat you. So
Yeah,
you kind of just,
that
it's
is
part of the
true.
game.
Yeah.
You got to kind of, love it, love the
Hmm.
game.
Yeah, 100%. And so this past season, you partnered with Brooke Bauer. Can you talk through this season? How did it go? What was the up and highs? What would you have done differently if you could go back a year from now, or this past year? If you could have done anything differently into your preseason to help you coming in the season, what would you have done differently?
Yeah. I think that yeah, I was excited to play with Brooke at the beginning of the year because we had some good tournaments together on the back half of last season. We got a second in Laguna, and things just felt really good. Uh, the bummer is well, good and bad, right? She was the assistant coach at FSU at the time. So during the off season, we didn't really get to train a ton together. So maybe differently would have been either finding more ways to train together. Um, because I do think I learned after the season, there's a lot of value to that. When she was finally come back from the summer, we were both feeling really excited about Huntington because that was the first event back. Unfortunately, after I felt like I will say I felt like I prepped preseason the best I ever have, and was in probably my best place I've been as an athlete coming into this season. And then, you know how sports goes. The week of Huntington, I ended up having an injury. So it was like the Monday before the tournament. I just was pulling off of the net and felt a little snap pop in my foot. I was like, that's not good. Ended up calling practice for the day and got it looked at. Um, we didn't think it was fractured, so I ended up playing Huntington. We didn't have a good finish, shockingly. And I ended up having two torn ligaments in my foot.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, not good. And so after that, I had to take a month off. Luckily, there was a bit of a break in the AVP calendar. Um, and so then our next major event was Manhattan. And I just don't think we've ever got back into our rhythm. I felt like we were feeling a little shaky, and I don't know. So, sports is sometimes weird, and I think that you can't always uh, like rely on previous
Mm-hmm.
results. Like,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
you always,
Can
like I just talked
expect.
about,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
And so I just don't feel like we earned in Manhattan. We'd be really close with teams, then just give up a couple points, and that's
Mm-hmm.
all it takes to lose at this level. We also had some tough draws in Manhattan, but
Mm-hmm.
again, that's part of the game, and I think you just have to embrace that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we kind of had a little bit of a rebound. So I'd say we started off the year like the lowest you pretty much could, right? Like bad finish in Huntington, bad finish in Manhattan. And so we decided to play in a more for fun tournament, which was Vancouver Open.
Mm.
And for those that don't know, I would say it's like a futures level tournament. It's not a futures, but like that's the level of the tournament. And we won. And I think that was just like more of a feel good tournament and to just like have a little bit of fun and take some
Yeah.
pressure off of ourselves. And then we finished the year. Oh, sorry. Then we went to Virginia Beach and got a second. So we kind of rebounded, and I think we're then getting finishes that we felt were more representative of our play. And I think that showed through also in Chicago. We were able to get a fifth, which was, I think, felt really good to end
Mm-hmm.
on after feeling like we underperformed in the like first half of the season. And unfortunately for us, I think it was just a little, too little, too late. Because had we even gotten a mediocre finish in Huntington or Manhattan, we would have made it into the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is I'm sure it's a bittersweet feeling, but at the same time, it's always better to finish on a high than to just have a great start and feel like you're right there and then not being
Yeah.
there. Now coming into this off season, how you're preparing it? Are you right now taking a break? How are you mentally preparing it, and what are your partnership looking like?
Yeah. I think for me right now, it's taking the mental break. Like I said, now that I like know I don't have any more events left this year,
Mm-hmm.
it's trying to decompress, trying to spend time with friends and family, um, and also shifting my priorities a little bit away from playing a ton right now to more like getting back in the weight room, making sure that I rebuild up a lot of strength. I think that really helped me this season, was prioritizing strength training and good eating habits in the off season, so that way my body, because once season starts, right, it's just like tournament here, tournament
Mm-hmm.
there, and it's really hard. So you kind of just want to be in a maintenance mode. But right now is the time that you can really um, grow at your body, grow your mind, and grow your game. So I think right now I'm just shifting from maintenance mode to growth mode, and just how much can I grow during this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is really important. And I want to touch base on what you just said. I remember you talking to me about that you just partner up with a nutritionist
Mhm.
to kind of change your eating habits and see like what works and what doesn't work for your body. Can you just told us what you learned so far or what is for now like your plan?
Yeah, so I just started working with Root and Fruit Nutrition, Sarah. She's awesome. We actually have our my DNA results come back next week. So for those who aren't familiar, she does genomic testing, and it's all based on my body and its needs. So we're gonna be able to look more into that and just see a couple places to optimize. So when I was talking with you, in this sport where there's so many factors, every single competitive edge that you can get is going to help. And so last year, I started by adding a strength coach, Chris Fu, Training
Mm-hmm.
Matrix, shout out. And then this year, I'm still working with him, but now I'm adding on Sarah to my team. So I'm just trying to, build support around myself to help me succeed, because as much as I think that I've learned and do know in these certain areas, I think that there's always room for growth. And so I'm really excited to add Sarah to my team and learn as much as I can from her.
Yeah, I love that. I do think that there's so much other things that we can bring to volleyball that is not volleyball related. Like I think that strength is huge and nutrition to like it can help you prevent injuries and inflammation and just know how to feel your best to into going to tournaments. So I think it's huge. Do you have any goals like physically or more like well it can be volleyball or just like personal goals in the next for the next year?
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know. I have like micro goals that I like to
Yeah, that's okay.
see to challenge myself. They're not always like, so crazy and lofty. I think this off season for me, um, a couple of my like mini goals, I do want to see, if I can add a couple more inches to my vertical. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't test a lot last year, so this is something that Chris and I are going to do more this year, is set more benchmarks and do more testing so we can really see that improvement. Another fun thing I'm trying to journal more so I can see again once I start working more with Sarah, how it's going to change the way I feel. And I think another mini goal for me is just getting as much sleep as possible. It's so much easier said than done, but sleep is like the greatest performance enhancer and injury preventer. So those are kind of like my off-season focuses. And then on the sand, continuing to try to level up my option and jump setting game,
Nice.
because I think that is the way that this sport is going. And I've had practice with you that's what we're working on. And so I think that expanding into those places in the game that you're starting to see, like Megan and Teresa are doing right
Mm-hmm.
now, and it's
Yeah.
helping them find a little more success against these really good teams. So like I said, all these little things add up. And so I'm just trying to see if I can add just a couple more tools to the toolbox, a couple more advantages from a physical perspective to my game, and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think it's great to have, they can be macro goals. I think it's just great to have something to achieve. And it's kind of hard with this upcoming season because it's still like unknown with like this new format that is the league. Do you think it affected you in a way that it doesn't seem like you lost motivation, but at all? But it's like, do you think that not knowing what's next, how do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I think for me, something that I've realized, and I think part of the reason I came back. So I think some people are very motivated by um, finishes and like very like outward obvious success. I think for me, um, coming back, the whole point of me playing because this sport, it doesn't have a lot of money.
Hmm.
I think it is more for me about having fun, trying to reach my individual potential and fulfill that curiosity. And so I'm really trying not to get carried away with like I'm not in the league, oh I'm not doing this or that. But
Hmm.
like I said, I'm trying to bring my focus more on, okay, like this is the best my body has felt through a season. Like that's a really great like accomplishment for me to like have prepped so well in the off season and see if I can build on that this year. So it's like I'm trying to just take the small wins as well as the big wins, like good finishes. They obviously feel good, but I think some things for me are a little bit above that. Or like in college, I never hand set ever, 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 and this is the first
That's
season
true.
that I hand set pretty much the whole year and maybe got called less than 5 times. So like that's a huge win for me.
Yeah,
And just
100%.
taking that and again, focusing more on those things than the things that maybe other people may focus on more.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And especially like to people listening, me and Megan practice together often, and sometimes at practice we really want I really we our goal is for Megan to hit it all the time. So we on purpose, I will on purpose pass super high that is not realistic at all. And so she has to handset, and then after seeing her do it in the game, I think it's even like me knowing that she's working on something and seeing her like achieve it, it's like I'm like woo, like almost like I'm this I don't know. I think it's really helpful, and I do think that having also people in your corner that kind of support you, and I think that I personally miss that from college, having instead of always like competing against with each other, to just have someone that you can help, help each other getting better. And I know that at LMU it was the culture was always like trying to get each other better, and I do think that's unfortunately that it's missing in the pro world. So how do you decide from now on, like in the pro world, how do you decide what you want to work on, and how do you see if you're getting better at it? Are you gonna commit to a coach, or what's the biggest
Yeah.
change from college to that?
Yeah, it's definitely hard, right? Once you're out of college, you don't have that coach. I think it's a combination of things. I think and this is a skill in and of itself, but
Hmm.
I think all good players, you need to kind of have a sense of like very realistically like where you're at in your game. Um, and not in a judgmental way either, but just like a really honest conversation with yourself.
Hmm.
Like, where am I losing my points? Or where am I not helping my partner enough? Or what could I be doing that would allow me to, close that gap? And so
Hmm.
for me, a lot of that self-learning process involves I try to look at players with similar similar game to me who are having like a lot of success. So like a perfect example would be like I think Julia Scholes and I are very like comparable in terms of
Hmm.
like physicality. We're about the same height and like similar game, but I think Julia's doing some things that are at such a, like a so smart, such a high level, and so I watch her a lot to try to learn from her and what she's been adding to her game and doing better than I do, or some of the undersized Brazilian blockers, watching their game and seeing how good they are at like pulling off the net. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
you need to be really honest with yourself. You need to be willing to learn from other people. And then when you do get like, those couple of sprinkles of wisdom that either you're getting from a coach that you hire or just kind of helping you out or from friends, right? Like I said, I do think the relationship we have from LMU
Mm-hmm.
like transcends LMU, right? Like we both want to help each other as much as
Yeah.
possible. So keeping those people close and leaning on the support you do have. But it's very much you're on your own. And so I think finding where your support is and leaning into that, or if you don't feel like you're getting enough of it, seeking out that additional support, right? So seeking out whether that's a trainer, a nutritionist, or whether it's training partners who are going to help you, or even if you're at that point, like hiring a coach.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know what you need to continue growing. And I think if you're in a place where you're not growing anymore, um, either seeking advice from someone you trust, um, or again, looking at other players and seeing where your gaps are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I do think that there is a lot by just looking at someone else, you can take so much from it. And also by just asking them, like it's so crazy that as professional, like we should ask each other in a way, because I feel like we could help each other, but I think a lot of people don't ask because they don't want to. They're scared
Yeah.
to ask or they feel like almost embarrassed to ask.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that you're looking at other play and just like accepting that some people are better than you at something, and then you're gonna be
For
better
sure.
at than them on something else, But I think it's a great mental skills to have. But yeah, and coming to this next season, do you think that you would commit to someone early on if it's like a league style again? Imagine like it's the league, or imagine they're making it to 10 teams and it's starting pretty early on. Do you think by committing to someone early, you'll have a better chance into qualifying for the league?
Yeah, I think that like I said, I'm trying to always learn from decisions I've made in the past. I think that this season I'm going to try to really like I don't know, date around, if you will, like and
Mm-hmm.
find who I'm feeling good with, whether Brooke and I like decide to play another season together, whether that's a new partner. I really want to explore my options and um, learn what I play well with,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously it's before like I want to hopefully be committed to someone like ideally no less than like a month out from the first tournament, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think that having that like comfortability together and communicating through all of the things, right? Set shape,
Mm-hmm.
wear each other out on defense, just that familiarity in general is an advantage. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that I want to make sure that I do give myself enough time with my whoever I end up playing with to develop that as well.
Yeah. Well, I love that. One of the last question I have is, what advice would you give your younger self if you could talk to her right now, to little Megan?
Ooh, to little Megan. I think I would just say, yeah, always have fun and live in the moment because like all these things are fleeting, right? And so I think that's
Hmm.
another reason I wanted to come back to the game is because there's only so long that you can do this. And so even when things are like you're in a low or whatever, to continue to enjoy the process and the people you're around because it's all temporary. Even now, I think I'm always constantly reminding myself to enjoy it even when it's hard because I'll look back in 10 years and be like, oh, like that was amazing that like, you know,
Yeah.
I had a body that like was capable of doing this
Hmm.
and friends who shared that same passion. So just enjoying it as
Hmm.
much as
I
possible.
love that. I agree. I think it's when you're in the pro world, it's like you don't celebrate the small wins, and then later on you'll be like, oh my God, yeah, I didn't win, but it was still like pretty cool. It was pretty awesome. So I
Yeah.
think it's great, great advice. And Megan, if people want to find you, if sponsors want to find you, what's the best way to reach you at?
Instagram is the best at Megan J Rice. No underscores, nothing, just Megan J
Yeah,
Rice.
because there is two Megan Rice in the
Yes,
AVP.
I'm the one with
So
the J.
the Megan J Rice. So
Yes.
yeah, awesome. And to the people that are listening live right now, do you guys have any question for Megan before we wrap this up? She doesn't bite, I promise. Oh no. Yes, no. James, Nicole, Sylvia, Seltzen. Do you guys have anything that you want to ask Megan?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything in particular.
You covered, what happened
Oh,
when. Oh,
oh, there's too many people, one by one.
Go ahead.
Sylvia? Was it Sylvia talking?
I was. Can you hear
Okay, go
me
ahead,
now?
go ahead, go
Okay,
ahead.
great. Yeah. So, I was thinking about, coming back from an injury, and you talked about how um, you took the time for it. You had that mindset of, I want to make sure that I'm really, really strong. And I've had a couple of injuries now, not professional, not even collegiate. But yeah, it sometimes was really, really slow going. And,
Mm.
sometimes it was like, well, um, that, you kind of want to hurry up and you want to get back to, the thing that you love doing. Um, so for you, how was it to, like, mm, how difficult was it for you to to just kind of slow down, knowing that you're very competitive, right? And it was something that you really love to do. How did you keep yourself from trying to come back too soon?
Yeah. I think it was a couple of things. I think one, my doctors and PTs were really honest with me up front and basically ingrained it in me that it's like if you do not take time, like this is something that you could possibly not come back from. Or like if I came back too soon and got injured again, like they're like, you're probably done. And so I think one was like even more than like the want and the drive to come back and play and like refill that like part of me, I think was the um again have like the big picture scared into me that if I don't take this so seriously and come back too soon, that it could all be taken away from me and not even give myself a real chance. And then I think the other thing too is this is kind of sad, but I do feel like I kind of mourned my like self as an athlete like all the way because I didn't know like to what capacity I would be able to play again. And so I think um, letting go of myself and I stopped tying my identity to volleyball and started reminding myself of like the other parts of me that either people care about or my other like things that I still enjoy doing outside or whether that's right like playing a board game because I might not be able to beat you in volleyball but I'll beat you in whatever it is Yahtzee um, and I don't know, just like find different ways of coping and letting go of the outcome, which at first was really painful, but then it was really freeing because once I took those expectations of coming back as the same player or whatever, I think I was able to enjoy even the rehab process more, the people I was around, um, and just the day-to-day little wins. So, and I think it's helped me since because I think if I was, let's say I never got injured and um, still very much tied myself to volleyball in terms of my identity, I don't think I would have taken that break coming right out of school. I think I would have played right through it. And I think burnout can be a really dangerous negative cycle. And so I think it gave me the awareness to know that I was burned out. So I really do like in hindsight view it as a blessing because um, I don't know, I feel like it allowed me to think about things more big picture for my whole career, enjoy the process more, take a step back. or just be grateful that I'm not currently injured. That was kind of a long-winded answer,
No,
but I hope
that's great. That's great. Thank you.
Sultan, you had anything?
No, I didn't have anything specific. I was just gonna thank her for her time and just like, yeah, just sharing us that information. It's always so helpful to hear your stories and to see where you are now and then where you came from. It's always cool. So appreciate it.
thanks. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Megan, thank you so much for joining
Yeah.
us and for talking to us today. And do you have anything, last word that you want to share?
No, thank you guys for having me on and letting me share. And yeah, great talking to you.